Hey everybody, Brent here, and I'm talking again with Dylan today. We are talking about The Woman of Tomorrow, kind of the back half of the book. Dylan, how are you doing today?
I'm good. As always, still living for truth and justice.
Right, definitely got to always do that. And so today we're not going to like if you've not read, well, here's a question I'll ask you right off the bat before we talk about what we're going to talk about. Would you recommend this book to comic book fans?
Yeah, I would recommend it to comic book fans, but I don't know if I would recommend it to new readers.
Okay, why is that?
It's very wordy. So if a new reader gets into it, they might get bored. I mean,
Mm,
it is very action packed, but at the same time, there's about as much dialogue as there. Well, there's more dialogue than there is action, but it it's very the pacing is kind of slow,
yeah, I would
so it
agree.
might scare off the new reader.
Hmm. That's a really interesting point, and yeah, and I think I've heard on Digging for Kryptonite, another podcast I listened to. He was talking about, is this the best choice to differentiate Kara from Clark? This
Yeah.
is a very unique story, and is it the best way to introduce Supergirl um, versus some of the other stuff in the past, or taking some of this stuff from the past and adapting it.
Yeah.
Maybe not as corny. No offense to the Supergirl movie Helen Slater, but no, maybe not as corny as that, and maybe
Yeah.
not as lighthearted as Melissa Benoist's version on the CW, but at least maybe yeah, a lighter version. So that's an interesting thought there.
I mean, I it's definitely the best Supergirl book, but I don't know if it's the best Supergirl book for new readers. Um, I know there is some more modern stuff that has come out within like the past 5 years, like in trade
Mm-hmm.
paperback size, that are about 4 issues. Um, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I think it's by Mariko Tamaki. I think that's
Okay.
her name. I heard that's a really good beginner Supergirl story. I mean, like I said, it's 4 issues, so you're not gonna get like something that's too drawn out or like overstays its welcome.
Right.
Uh, New readers like action packed, fast paced. Like so, when like the more experienced comic book person that reads comic books like daily or weekly, like I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem with reading something that has a lot of words, but like you wouldn't recommend like a new reader The Walking Dead, you know?
Right.
So something like that would like you don't want to recommend them like a 200 issue series. So this is a really it is like a really good book. Definitely the best Supergirl book, but like for new readers, try to go on YouTube or TikTok, try to find some recommendations like that. Have you ever heard of Near Mint Condition?
I have not.
So he's a guy that has like I don't know how to explain how many comic books he has.
Okay.
You could see one of his videos and be like, wow, because he has his basement is full of like comic books.
Mm,
So he has recommendation videos for Supergirl, Superman, stuff like that. So
awesome.
that's kind of how it got me into like the reading order of Supergirl and Superman and all that.
Right. And I would also recommend Sophie Campbell, the current issue. I have not read all of it. I think I've read the first two issues of it, the newest run, most current
Hmm.
run, and that I think is pretty accessible, would be to newer readers. I think there's
Yeah.
stuff in there that if you don't know from the past, then there's stuff I think maybe in the first couple issues that I didn't know from the past. But if you did, you did. But if not, it's not. I don't think it's going to stop. The ability to,
Yeah.
as Anthony says on Digging for Kryptonite, enjoy that thing or whatever. So, uh, your enjoyment of those issues, I think you'll still be able to get something out of it for sure. So, we're gonna pretty much just talk. We did pretty much 1 through 3 last time, kind of ended at 4. We talked ahead of time about, we don't have a lot to say about the fourth issue other than it shows the violence of the brigands or brigand. How do you say it? Brigands or brigands?
Brigands.
Brigands.
I would think so.
Okay, the brigands. So it shows their violence as well as Krim's violence. And I would say that's the one big difference the movie versus the comic had. The brides were not in the comic book. Spoiler alert. I guess I should have said that before. But the violence that is enacted in this book is way worse than the movie. As a matter of fact, I think I was talking to you about it, and I think if they were going to adapt this purely as a uh
Direct
one, yeah,
adaptation.
one for one, I would almost feel like it would have to be R if they wanted to stay
Oh
very
yeah,
true to the story because of how gory it is. And when I say gory, it's not like up close and personal necessarily. It's more
yeah,
of like you see things from a distance or you see like blood squirting or whatever, things like that. So that issue 4, that's kind of the I would say shows the heinousness of the brigands as well as Krim and his violence.
yeah. Like you were saying about like the movie being, if it was a direct adaptation, it would be rated R. I mean, even when I saw the movie, I thought it was really violent as it was. Not like pushing the limit, but I wouldn't take a child to go see it. You know,
Right, right.
like I would Superman. Like the Superman movie felt like it was made for everyone, but the
Mhm.
Supergirl movie kind of felt like you had to be teenager and above to go watch it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think a child would want to. Oh, I don't think a parent would let their child see the movie.
sure. I think as far as that goes, maybe Melissa Benoist's version of Supergirl on the CW would be a little bit safer.
Oh yeah, hands down.
So let's jump into issue 5. Um, Baraton or Baraton. I don't know how do you say it. The
Uh,
kryptonite planet.
Baraton,
Yeah, there we
I
go.
think.
We'll work with that. So the green sun planet or the kryptonite planet. And it was interesting because in the movie, she was like, "Oh, kryptonite or whatever," and I was like, "Was that from the comic?" But it is from the comic that it is like
I,
it's essentially a kryptonite
yeah,
sun or piece or something.
I really wish they explained it more in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't understand it in the movie at all because it just felt like she was allergic to the color green at that point.
Oh, okay.
Like they didn't explain like how there was a kryptonite sun or like the explanation behind it or like if the sun was actually made from kryptonite and it just has I don't know, but it was just I thought it was ridiculous. And then I read the comic book. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Why didn't they just explain it like that?
Mm-hmm.
I really wish they threw something in the movie that like what they did in the comic book is that it was supposed to be like a prison for Superman.
Right.
But
Right.
when the Kryptonite planet appeared in the movie, I was just like, how does that make any sense at all?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
Kryptonite comes from Krypton. How can there be just a son of Kryptonite?
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And I think that's part of the problem in films when they give timelines instead of kind of, I think ambiguity is the word where you're not really sure because
Yeah,
they were like, Superman's only been a hero for 3 years. Maybe with Supergirl, this movie, maybe it's been 4 or 5 years. But is that really enough time? And then it said it suffered his first defeat in that movie. So obviously, if the timeline were congruent or whatever, then really Superman would have already suffered a defeat because I think she says his friends or the Justice League basically came to
yeah.
get him off of the planet and he only lasted like not very long. And
Like
then they,
about 40 minutes
okay,
or was it? Uh, trying to
yeah,
find it.
yeah, we
It
could
was about
definitely
like
look that up, but yeah, so that would have been another defeat. And so this Superman in James Gunn's world doesn't feel like he's been on any space adventures, at least not that we know of. Obviously, you can always they call it retcon it. You could always go back and change some
yeah,
things if you wanted to. But yes, I would say having an explanation of some kind, or I heard my father say that there were a lot of people. Well, I mean, that wouldn't work either because it was
yeah.
after Krypton exploded and all that. So I guess that even that doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, how would these enemies know within the realm of the movie? Because Yes, it's been a long
It
time,
it
but
just kind of feels like it's there for plot's sake,
yeah. Oh,
like
totally it is.
to make the movie just go forward.
Yeah. And
I
that's
was I was really bothered by that,
hmm
like because it didn't make any sense to me while I was watching it. And I'm a defender of the movie. I actually really enjoyed the movie,
yeah, me
and
too.
for some reason, a lot of people don't. But there were some moments in it where I'm like, how does that make any sense? Or
Yeah.
why is this happening?
Yeah, at least a small explanation from Supergirl to Ruthie, even if it's not comic accurate, that's fine. You at
Yeah,
least get an idea, like how would the brigands, how would they have known in a sense that was her weakness, right?
yeah,
Unless they had already encountered a Kryptonian, in which sense or is there a larger picture in play? Brainiac, who is not introduced yet in the
yeah,
universe, but will be, has he manipulated things? And she's like, I don't know how they knew that this was my weakness, right? How
yeah.
would they even have known? If Superman were already well established in this world of James Gunn, yes, that's totally fine. Oh, it's a prison for Superman, right? And that's all you
Yeah.
have to say. You don't have to give any huge explanation, just little lines that would make sense.
Another thing is that in the movie, it doesn't feel lived in. Like there's no animals or anything like that.
Mm.
But in the book, they have dinosaurs and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about because I think you said this was your favorite of all of them or one of them.
I think this is my favorite issue.
Okay. So what stood out to you in this issue? And again, audience, we're not going to go through every beat by beat. However, we're going to kind of highlight some things that we liked or some things we thought were good or just some observations. So go ahead.
Well, I love how Ruthie takes care of Supergirl throughout the entire stretch of their time on that planet. I love how she's fighting dinosaurs. I think that's really cool. Like in the movie, I wish they would have maybe shown more like that, like her protectiveness over Kara. Uh, I honestly just think it's a very sick issue. A lot of fun. I think this is probably the one I like got through really easily. Like not as much dialogue, not like very well paced.
Hmm.
I mean, the art's beautiful as always. I just had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I think um so let's see here. They have to last about 10 hours on this planet, right? And Clark only
Yeah,
lasted 40.
Boy,
And it doesn't say anything about a yellow sun, so this is a difference in the movie.
yeah.
And she just says they can fly off the planet at night, right? I guess when the kryptonite's not as drastic. Um,
Another thing I like to point out is that I love how Kara like wakes up every now and then and just speaks nonsense.
right, right.
I think that was funny.
Yeah. And yeah, and what you said too, Ruthie becomes the protector of Supergirl. And but before that, I have a line that Ruthie swears, and I said not that I encourage it, but it's funny that Kara says that was the right way to use the word, but don't tell
Oh
Clark
wow.
because he'll be judgy, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's a great line, and yeah, so now Ruthie is kind of taking up the sword and waiting for the dinosaur. But she also realizes in that moment that this dinosaur was not very smart or wasn't very quick, right? So she
Yeah.
realizes in my own frailty fighting this thing, it wasn't as much me as it was just my survival instinct kicking in. And then the dinosaur was not a smart dinosaur and he wasn't fast either. So it was like, yeah, she slays the dinosaur, but then other dinosaurs come in, and then of course Supergirl, even in her stupor state, has to save Ruthie again with her X-ray vision, or not X-ray,
Yeah.
but heat vision. Let's see here. I said here, so there were two more attacks, an attempt at Supergirl because Supergirl wanted to get to the water.
Yeah.
Ruthie would have gone with her had she been able to walk, but she wasn't. So at first, Ruthie was going to stop her, realized the maid of might was truly mighty. So then she set out to go with her, but they couldn't because of the weakness of Supergirl. So even in her weakened state, Supergirl is still fighting, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. And it's interesting at the end. So this is something that is a Christian I don't necessarily agree with because it says she Ruthie prayed her last prayer, but that's just this is not a Christian story and all that, and that's
No,
fine.
it's not.
But it's interesting because like right at the last second, the sun eventually fell, and then Supergirl rises up to knock out the last dinosaur. Um, yeah, so Ruthie, she kind of takes a step in her, I guess, towards adulthood from a youngster because she slays this dinosaur. I've
Yeah.
never slain a dinosaur, so that's a pretty big thing. Did you have any more thoughts on this issue?
No, I don't. I
Okay.
just a very well written issue. I think it's just very good.
Yeah, and I was going to look up, I did not do this, but I was going to look up how much money overall has Jurassic Park made in its franchise. And I don't know
Uh,
the numbers, but I'm sure it's ridiculous
I think
total.
probably the last trilogy I think made over $1 billion. Like, well, 3 billion, 1 billion
Okay.
for each movie. Mm, I don't know. I want to say the franchise has grossed over 5 billion at this
Point,
point.
yeah, and the point of that is people like dinosaurs. They like seeing dinosaurs on the big
Yeah,
screen. If you had a preview, even just a glimpse on the previews of a dinosaur, people would be like, "What the heck? A dinosaur? Supergirl?
I
What's going
know.
on?" I
I would
mean,
have freaked out.
that's
I thought it would have been cool.
yes, that is even if you only had one dinosaur because you had to limit
Oh
the
yeah,
time, which I don't under. Part of me doesn't understand. Like, I feel like we're in a day and age where superhero movies, if they're 2.5 hours, people can get through. They understand,
yeah,
right? Like, I would say any more than 2.5 hours, yes, it's a bit lengthy, but I
yeah,
almost feel like to tell a really good story, you need close to 2.5 hours
yeah.
to
I mean, one of my
really.
personal favorite superhero movies is
Hmm.
the Batman,
Okay.
the latest one. It's not really. Oh, it's pretty old now. It's like about 4 years old. But even though that movie's like 3 hours, I think it's very well paced. It doesn't feel like 3 hours. It feels like everything's happening so fast, and so like that movie was just great. I really wished with the time they could have added maybe an extra 15 minutes to the Supergirl movie,
Yeah.
just to add a few more plot points that would or just things in general from the comic, like the dinosaurs,
Right.
or an explanation behind the Kryptonite Sun,
Hmm.
or I don't know, some maybe more scenes with Supergirl and Ruthie just talking.
Yeah.
I mean, their speech when Kara was talking about Krypton in the movie to Ruthie, I think that's one of the best scenes in the movie is Kara opening up to her. But I really wish we got more of that. It doesn't really feel like they get a lot of time together in the movie, even though they spend the majority of it together. You know?
Yeah, that is true. Definitely more, I guess, again to borrow a term, breathing room
Yeah.
in the movie. So let's go on. We don't have a lot to say um, about the next issue, which is Supergirl recounting the story to Ruthie of Krypton. I think we both agreed they did a pretty good job of explaining that. Left some things out in the movie from the comic, but again, this is a shortened version of the comic and not entirely a. It's a kind of weird adaptation, but
I wish they had
nonetheless,
the horse.
yeah,
I wish
Comet.
the movie. Yeah, I wish the horse was in the movie.
So apparently, I was listening to Supergirl Radio, and they and their podcast. And if anyone wants to hear more about Supergirl, definitely dive into theirs because it's a whole podcast dedicated to Supergirl. So Supergirl Radio, and they were saying that the screenwriter or the writer of the story said you can't have a dog and a horse or something like that. And
Uh,
I'm like, man, I think
I
I
feel
mean,
like
look at Guardians of the Galaxy, for
I
instance,
know.
which was a James Gunn film. We had a tree, a raccoon that talked, aliens that were uh, weird and hysterical and green, and Mantis's power, who, what even
Yeah,
is that power other than to make people go to sleep? And it worked. It was like huge. Guardians of the Galaxy was big, a big deal. So I think we're okay in this day and age to, you had a tree, Vin Diesel, all he said, I am Groot, I am
I
Groot, I
know.
am Groot,
It's
right?
not like the horse has
Over and
any
over.
actual lines, so it's like I don't see the problem why they couldn't have added the horse.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I know the horse is like conscience. It understands what the Supergirl and Ruthie are saying, but I think screenwriters really underestimate the intelligence of their viewers,
Mm-hmm.
like of the people that are watching the movie. Like like some right like with Marvel movies, like in previous years, it feels like they made the movies for a specific type of audience, which is like mostly kids. But when those movies were first getting made, they were like just like real movies, like the first Iron Man movie. That movie holds up to today.
Mm-hmm.
So it just feels like screenwriters are like underestimating the crowd. Like
Yeah.
they're treating them like babies, holding keys in front of them. Like, oh, this is a Marvel movie. Come watch it. You know?
Right. No, I don't disagree. And that's not to, again, we both are, I gave the movie a 9 out of 10 my first viewing and then an 8 out of 10 my second viewing, but I enjoyed the whole movie overall the
Yeah,
second time. So
I thought it
we
was
are,
really good.
so we're not saying that this, the screenwriter was just terrible. We
Oh
just
yeah,
think, with Supergirl Radio as well, and others, many others, I'm sure, there is so much more that could have been added
yeah,
even in the context of the film that they were telling. You still could have had dinosaurs. You still could have had a space dragon. You still even could have had Maypole if you would have done it right with the
yeah.
brides, even. Like, there's ways to still put things in the movie that were from the comic and could make it more
I
full, I think.
I would have had rather had the space dragon than the space pirates.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, this. I mean, maybe they didn't want to spend that type of money to put a CGI dragon in it, but I think that whole scene is really cool and it shows off Kara's powers to like the perfect extent. Like with the space pirates. I mean, yeah, I mean she has her powers, like she gets her powers like back halfway through the fight because of the yellow sun, but it doesn't show off her full talent, like the full extent to her powers. So when she fights the space dragon in the comic, it just shows the reader how strong she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So let's jump on to the next. I think it's the second to last issue, and we'll just kind of breeze through this one because I really do want to hone in on the last issue. But here we have Ruthie on the planet with Krim, who is tied up, and then we have Supergirl in space fighting the Brigands. And Ruthie, of course, makes attempts on Krim, but the horse Comet is it the name of Comet is the name of the horse
yeah,
stops her a couple times, and yeah. So I think I'm even seeing a thing here where the horse is neighing and he looks kind of angry at her. So it definitely has personality.
yeah.
But was there anything from this issue that you liked or kind of stood out to you?
I mean, I think the horse is the best part. Comet. I mean, I love how Ruthie's talking to Comet. Like, and Comet is understanding.
Right.
Like like the horse understands Ruthie,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, there's not much to this issue. I mean, I love Supergirl fighting the spaceship. I can't remember the context of why she's fighting this spaceship, but I think it's. Do you remember why?
I think basically they defend their own, so they're coming to
Oh, okay,
save Krim. Like they
okay,
have Krim now, and it's like, okay, well, the pirates, they're going to go get him because they made there's a movie, I forget what this line's from, but they made an unholy alliance or something.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was, I think, why they were there. They were searching for Krim. They're like, we're gonna get back him. They liked him. He liked them. Whatever. But I think one of the things that I would like to point out is the scene where he's talking about her dad.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll just read it really quick. It says, I had a standard way of approaching the topic. I'd tell a joke about the king, something a little body, having to do with the rumors that the first prince was sired by the king's sister and not the Reverend Mother. Those who go along with the humor reveal themselves to be unknowingly awaiting eventual execution. Your father actually didn't laugh, much to his credit. Instead of he objected forcefully. He screamed at me for my rudeness on his land. He did not like the content or the context and asked me to immediately apologize for the blasphemy and walk away uh, from the home of his family. And then he says, like, basically he felt insulted by her dad. He's like,
Yeah.
me, his pride essentially, or ego, if you will, got in the way. And he's like, me, a king agent, I made all these sacrifices, and you're telling me that I'm not loyal, or I'm being rude, or this or that, or whatever. And I'm just trying to. And so I don't know how much of this is true because, again, at the beginning, Ruthie said he was a liar. So obviously we don't know because Krim is not a good guy. So we
Yeah.
don't really know if he's being truthful with her or if he's really. I mean, if we go back to our first discussion, I think we were both like, okay, let's see if we find out anything else about Krim. Was he really acting for the king? And according to this, it's like, no, he was acting out of his own selfishness and his own pride and his own hurt, like arrogance. Like, how dare you talk down to me? Do you know who I am? Do you know what I've done? Do you know this?
Do
Any
you
thoughts?
think do you think he might have been a part of the King's Council, but did something so terrible that he got kicked out of it?
That that's an interesting thought, and obviously we don't know because, but is in speculation.
Yeah.
That's interesting because either this king is really wicked and doesn't mind people just lopping their heads off, or yes, Krim is just out on his own and he's his service to the king all these years, right? But maybe now, yeah, maybe he is in banishment and he's just telling his own story and
Like he's in denial. Like,
yeah, maybe. But either way, I think like it says him making demands of me, knowing nothing of my life, my sacrifice for my king, my duty, so often served, right? And so, yeah, there's clearly that this scripture that says there's pride goeth before fall, and definitely the fall unfortunately came to her father, but his fall was his anger or his rage to just get so caught up in his anger that he just slaughtered her dad, according to Krim. So
yeah.
I don't know. Do you think this part? Do you think Krim? I mean, there's really no reason for him to lie at this point. And in seeing his utter cruelness throughout the whole story, it does kind of feel like he was just not a great guy. And I mean, not a great guy is an understatement. He was a evil dude. So
Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel all that far off from who Krim actually could have been. What do you think?
I think his ego. I think I want to take into account what I said is that
Okay.
I think he was kicked out of the King's Council and he's in denial, and so I think his ego's hurt.
Hmm.
So he keeps telling himself that he's still working for the king. That's how
Interesting.
I want to see it.
And
So
so his ego's already hurt. So
yeah,
so it was almost like the saying, the straw that broke the camel's back was what her
what her
dad
dad
said.
said. Yeah,
Okay, so like this was already kind of being pent up and
yeah.
everything.
That's how I think it.
Okay.
Like I think that makes a ton of sense to me. Is
Yeah.
that like he used to be part of the King's Council and then like got his ego hurt or like something happened between him and the king where the king got upset and kicked him out and he's just like been a really bad dude ever since or he was already a really bad dude and did things in the king council that was really corrupted and he got kicked out stuff like that.
Hmm.
I think it was like what you said, the straw that broke the camel's back is what Ruthie's dad said to him. Basically, just like telling the truth that that he's like a coward, basically.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. So let's, unless you have anything else about that issue, let's jump on to the end.
Sounds
And
good.
I know we're making our way through quickly, but so there's a couple of big things in the last issue. One, Comet, and as we the previous second to last issue, he realizes something's up with Supergirl. Essentially, she's about to get shot, and so Comet. Spoiler alert: if you've not read the comic and don't want it to be spoiled, go ahead and wait till you've read it, or just whatever. But so basically, Comet gets shot with a kryptonite bullet, so Supergirl would not. And so then he transforms into a man creature and was under, I forget, he was under some kind of a spell or something happened to him that made it turn him into a horse or whatever. And then as he perishes, as he dies, he turns back into a man. And then Supergirl comes back down and she's about to end it with Krim. So let me, before we get to the very end, let me get your thoughts. Is there anything throughout this last issue, other than the very end, that you wanted to talk about?
I like how Ruthie kicks Crim's butt.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, she doesn't she doesn't kill him, but I think it's really cool that she lays the smackdown on him.
Right.
Like in some sort of way, she gets rid of her pent up anger by like beating him in a fight, like besting him,
Right.
like just hurting his ego even more.
Mm.
You know, like yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think yeah, that is again the violence aspect of the comic versus the movie. Ruthie,
Yeah,
she does to some degree take out her revenge. I think she kicks him, she chops off some of his fingers, like he's kind of a bloody mess when
yeah,
Supergirl gets there. Um, Yeah, because Ruthie does. She's like, I'm taking out this anger on you, this vengeance on you, this what you did to my dad. Like but then she goes to try to kill him, but she can't. And so that's
yeah.
interesting too. And then Supergirl flies away or flies down with a Comet and says, maybe you need help. And then, of course, you would to ask last time, did Supergirl ever pick up the sword? And we do see here in this issue that she does pick up the sword. Um, Another big difference from the movie, Crypto was okay, but she made it all that up about needing to find Krim to save him, needing to come with me because you knew what Krim would look like. You don't think I could have solved all those problems? Come on, I'm Supergirl. So essentially, she's like, I just needed to find Krim, and I didn't know who he was, but now I know. So what is your take on that? Do you think was this always in Supergirl, or was it more like the movie? I think the movie's explanation was, I know you would have gone off anyways, and so like I might as well have just came with you. You would have found a way to go after him, so I'm kind of gonna
Yeah,
protect you in the midst of it. Which, if you remember at the beginning, her mother, um, or no, I think she even says, "I realized without Supergirl, I would have been killed by Krim." And so, do you think it
I
was
think
more that, or do you think Supergirl really did just have it in her? She's like, "No, I just needed you to find Krim."
I think Supergirl just wanted to protect Ruthie.
Okay.
I don't really think Supergirl cared all that much for Krim outside of just wanting to help Ruthie decide on whether she wants to corrupt herself by killing Krim or like staying like human, like keeping to her own values. Like, is it worth killing someone to darken your mind? Like, do you really want to take that sorrow? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, because Supergirl knows the pain of like losing people or like people dying in front of her, and she doesn't want to see Ruthie become that type of person. Like the movie, but I don't think the movie does a good job at staying true to those values because I don't think Supergirl should have killed Krim in the movie. I think they should have did what they said. Well, they said they did in the book, which is take him to the Phantom Zone.
Right.
I I think it goes against a lot of things that Supergirl is supposed to stand for. Um, like with killing Krim, like what they did in the movies. But like I think Supergirl was mostly there just to help Ruthie. You know?
Gotcha. So what's your take on when Supergirl, she says, "You boy, you've had your last words," and then there's this whole thing. She's holding the sword up, and then she's essentially like, I think Supergirl's like, I would hope you would have learned something, but you didn't learn it because I still dream of Krypton. So she's like, I'm still grieving, so I don't know how you could be totally healed of that grieving,
Yeah,
maybe. And so, but she's got the sword, and then she's like, Supergirl. She's like, you hear me, Supergirl? You better hear me. And then she's like, I learned it. I learned the lesson of your kindness and compassion and all these things. Um, and so Supergirl does not go through with it. But what is your thoughts on while Supergirl is holding that sword? Is it because of how beat up she was from the brigands? Is it because of Comet just died, right? All this pent up anger at the moment. Do you think
yeah,
that's what's at play there? It wasn't so much that she's still thinking about Crypto, who she knows was fine,
yeah.
or is it more of like in the moment, the heat of the moment, she's like, I'm done with you, Krim.
I think it was more the heat of the moment. I mean, she was beat up, angry, like you said, lost Comet. So, like, I would understand why she's really upset and like why, like, when you're angry, you do things that you regret. So, I think Ruthie being there, like next to her, trying to what, like trying to tell Kara that she learned the lesson, like she
Right.
understands what Kara was trying to teach her.
Yeah, about
I
not getting
think,
revenge.
yeah, I think that calmed her down. You know, I think it brought her senses back.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a line here. Well, I don't think that's talking about Supergirl. But watching you, being by your side these many days, I can't help but think that Grace did not die with my father. Right?
Yeah,
There's a mighty wheel still churning in the universe, moving on, moving us all forward. Is each of our responsibility to pay respect to that fate, right? So again, um, yeah, and in that moment, girls will learn the legend of Supergirl, who lost everything and kept on walking. They will settle themselves content in their power, knowing someone out there has survived the storm, right? So, Supergirl being this example of she lost everything and she's still moving forward, right? And that even when you lose everything, like Ruthie did, yeah, and wanting that vengeance, but you could still walk forward, not exacting vengeance.
yeah,
So now we come to the very end of the book. And again, this is if you don't want this spoiled, please do not listen. But essentially, one question that I think I've listened to a podcast from Anthony Desiato's Superman fan journey about the Woman of Tomorrow book. Um, but I don't have a lot of knowledge other outside of like our discussion, outside of maybe reading it, my own thoughts, and maybe hearing some things from Anthony and maybe Supergirl Radio, even though they didn't dive deep. The thing that I listened to is more about the movie versus its comic book adaptation. So, a very interesting point that I want to talk about is the very ending. And essentially, if you don't know it, the Supergirl they send Krim to the Phantom Zone. Then Supergirl flies back when Ruthie's older. She says, "Hey, I read your book," which essentially, in my mind, is the book that we're reading about these adventures. And she's like, basically, she says some things that make you think she wasn't 100% accurate in this book. Because at the very end, she says something about she did not further elaborate. I did not ask her. Instead, she moved her sword swiftly through the air and stabbed down through the chest of the kneeling brigand. After it was done, she returned the bloody blade to my hand. So, as she's telling that, for the closing of her book, I suppose, you see Ruthie knocking Krim out, essentially. And according to writer Tom King, this was not a killing. This was just her knocking him out and leaving him walking away. Which begs the question, and I don't know that we'll ever get a clear answer, and maybe that's why Tom King left it this way. You go, hold on. So now, with that ending, with the possibility of some things being conflated, like what percentage of this story is true and what percentage of it is Ruthie conflating it because she uh maybe there were things that didn't happen but she wanted them to happen. So
Yeah.
what is your take on the ending, and then also yeah, the Phantom Zone, all that, she knocks him out, but then also I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Hmm. I mean, it can be really confusing to me sometimes because I don't know what's real and what's fake. I mean, I don't think Supergirl killed Krim. I think Ruthie did that just to say she did in her book, you
Kind
know?
of satisfy her own
Yeah, her like
devices.
her own fantasy. Like
Yeah.
I I think I think almost all of it is true. I don't think she went into as much depth as what like as I don't think she went into full detail. I think there was more behind the scenes than what we got shown.
Right.
And so like I think all of it happened though outside of Supergirl killing Krem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe comment, I don't know. Maybe a comment not turning into a dude. I don't know. This is the part that confused me the most.
Gotcha.
So I don't know exactly how to feel about it. I in my own perspective, I think that it did all happen,
Mm-hmm.
but I I think the ending is like Supergirl did not kill Krem. I
Right.
think that's what happened.
Yeah. Do you think it now? Obviously, Tom King had a vision. He had a reason for leaving it, I guess, open to interpretation. And
Yeah,
maybe it is so that we could have these discussions and say, no, that I think this is what happened. He's like, he realizes readers fill in the story anyway. So he's like, this
yeah.
gives you even more freedom to interpret the things you don't understand in ways that you would want. Maybe, maybe not. But um, what was I going to ask? I just forgot. But I think, yeah, some of my interpretation of it could be maybe some of the violence wasn't as
Maybe
violent. Maybe some of what Ruthie's heroics were like maybe it was still there. I mean,
maybe she didn't kill the dinosaur.
I don't know. I feel like why would you? That's something that because she was proud of herself, right? So
Yeah,
it's like, and she recognized the dinosaur wasn't this and that. So yeah, I mean that is one thing possibly, but was there some things in there that were conflated? Were some things that didn't happen? Maybe at
maybe
the
the space dragon.
yeah, maybe at the end, maybe she didn't do all that to Krim. Maybe that was more again her fantasy, right?
Yeah,
I haven't looked at the pictures close enough to see if he has fingers or not.
he doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't have fingers. So
No,
then
they look like nubs.
okay, so she did apparently, or
Yeah,
Supergirl did, right? Maybe some of that violence that Supergirl enacted was violence she enacted, and who knows? Um, so one last question before we end: would you ever want Tom King to rewrite a story? I guess not, because part of the fun of comics is discussing them, is debating them. The actual authorized Woman of Tomorrow, what really happened. But if he does that, then
I I don't think he.
it kind of ruins some of the
Yeah,
quote unquote magic of the story,
yeah.
right?
I mean, I don't think he would ever come out and make another comic book saying like what's real and what's not.
Yeah,
Maybe at a Comic Con he would say what's real and whatnot, but I don't think he would make another story about this.
yeah, that's true. Um, yeah,
I
on the
I've
one hand, it's like you as a reader, you're like, what actually happened? But on the other
yeah,
hand, that's also what kind of makes this a good comic is that, or a confusing comic even, but even that confusion is part of the story, right?
yeah. I mean, it's very philosophical. Like it wants you to think about yourself as well.
Mm,
Like if you were put into that situation, what would you do?
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Well, I guess we'll just if one of us ever meets Tom King at a convention, we'll have
Hopefully
to
one day.
our and the thing is though, like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go draw out a list of questions like, is this real? Did that? Like, I don't think so because one,
I,
that's a lot of work, but
I
also it kind of takes away some of the enjoyment.
yeah. I'm the type of dude that goes to comic book conventions and asks them like I write down three things I want to say
Right.
and I try to get as good of an answer as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've met some comic book creators and I'm like I'll ask them and I'm like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" Like I met this Spider-Man artist one. It's totally like has nothing to do with this. I met this Spider-Man artist,
Right.
Alex Saviuk, who's the co-creator of Tombstone. And I asked him, "Are you happy that Tombstone's going to be in the new Spider-Man movie?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am, but I wish the actor who is playing Tombstone didn't play Tombstone." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Who do you want to play Tombstone?" And he's like, "I want Kevin Nash to play Tombstone." I'm like, "Okay, that doesn't make any sense."
Yeah, but yeah, you also like you got to answer from him, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a
That's
funny
cool.
answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
Kevin Nash, the wrestler. You know,
okay,
the
I'm
yeah,
not as familiar with
it was just funny.
okay. All right, cool. Well, thank you all for joining
Yeah,
our discussion of Supergirl. And I will say, don't go to red planets and get drunk. It's not healthy. And yeah, don't exact revenge, even though sometimes we want to, right? Because in the end, we'll have to live with that. In the end, do we want to be, I guess, stoop to the level of the villain in our lives, or can we rise above and show forgiveness and mercy even when the people don't deserve it? So,
yeah,
all right, man. Well, thank you very much. And
absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
yep, for Comics CC Studio, this is Brent. We will CC you later, and just remember, stay super.